Hello and welcome to the Thread to Mend podcast. My name is Taylor and I come to you from Baltimore, Maryland, and this is a podcast about all things fiber related. I do mostly touch on the subjects of knitting and spinning, and in this episode I want to show you my finished Navelli Tee. This is a pattern designed by Caitlin Hunter, and I knit with both my handspun and Kashgora yarn. Kashgora yarn is made by the Cashmere people. It is distributed in, I think, many yarn stores in the United States, but I bought mine from Port Fiber in Portland, Maine last year. And while my husband and I were making our annual trip to Maine, I finished this project with the yarn I bought in the year past. So I'll stand up to give you a little show of this sweater. So it is a short sleeve sweater and it has color work at the bottom. I found the chart to be quite challenging to start, and I've done a lot of color work. I don't know why I had such a hard time, but I did make a mistake in the center row here. I accidentally flipped. This stitch is supposed to be gray with two dark stitches on either side, so it kind of gives a little bit more detail, and I accidentally made that. I realized after I finished all the color work I made that mistake, and I just didn't really want to go back to change something that is so symmetrical. So I just left that. I did split for the sleeves prior to the pattern correction coming out. So if you have purchased this pattern prior to now, you might have seen that there was a mistake. It said to, when you split for the front and back, to switch to your smaller needles. And I questioned that instruction, but just knowing that I've never had issues in the past with Caitlin's projects, I went ahead and did it. And the result of that was that when I was ready to seam the shoulders, the armhole was dramatically too small. And I didn't want to reknit half the sweater, especially with so much ribbing and all the short rows. I just added, I think you can kind of see it here. So you can see those are where my short rows were, and that's where I would have seamed up the shoulder. So I just added about 8 rows on both the front and the back in straight ribbing to give it more length before joining. So you can it just kind of makes it more of a saddle sleeve type of thing, because originally these short rows are supposed to come together at the top, but it's so subtle. I feel like it's the greatest sort of compromise I could have asked for. Also, one other modification I made was that I joined the front and back further towards the neck than the pattern described. I think it was like join 11 stitches or something, and I might have done like 20. I guess my gauge was like way off, but I don't know if it was just the row gauge, or I honestly don't know. But I did join the neck. I did join the shoulders closer to the neck, and I still have a really wide boat neck. I think the original was like slipping off my shoulders on both sides. So I kind of wish this were a little bit closer, but I was already doing it so much, I didn't want to overdo it. And then another thing, not to sound complainy because it's a beautiful design, but I was kind of thrown when it says, do the back, here's all the short rows, and then for the front, do all the short rows too. Just because I've knit so many sweaters where they either didn't have short rows or I didn't do enough short rows, and I hate that kind of choking feeling you get, which obviously the sweater construction does not give. I just was kind of like irked that there's no short rows to kind of force the sweater to sit in this way. It really takes little for you to just simply kind of adjust it that way, so that it sits higher in the back, but then it gives you sort of a weird kind of, not scrooching in the front, because I think most people have a bust that will fill that gap, but you see how the whole sweater hangs askew? Like I would rather it sit normally, just like that, but not be kind of falling down the back a little bit. Like I would like it to have short rows in the back. So I don't know, I feel like just given that the pattern had written instructions on short rows, and if I were to do this again, I would do additional short rows in the back and either the same in front or all the short rows in the back and fewer in front, or just do additional short rows post joining, I don't know. I would have done more short rows in the back. But yeah, I'm really glad to have made this. I recommend this pattern for everyone. I know I just criticized it slightly, but that error on the instructions is all fixed. And it's such a simple and an easy design that I feel like if you run into errors, you can fix them without feeling overwhelmed. So I definitely recommend it. I also really very much love the neckline thing that I think Caitlin does this a lot in her patterns. And I won't describe it just because it is a paid for pattern, but I like the way she sort of finishes the neck, those methods. So this is my Navelli Tee. Perhaps I'll stand back so that you can kind of get a more full image of that. Yeah. And it's done. So I'm so happy to have this. My new job is did I already tell you about that? No, I didn't. I re-record this a couple times because it's been a long while since I posted a new podcast episode and I had a couple restarts. But I do have a new job. I'm starting next week. I'm on a little week-long staycation between jobs right now, and my new job has a business professional sort of dress code. So I'm new to business professional. I love building a wardrobe, and unfortunately a lot of the things that I've made are not business professional. They're a little bit more casual. So I've completely shifted my priorities in the things that I'm making right now to build more pieces that I can wear to work. I think that this, although it's a little bit casual because it's it's cashmere. Like I feel like I can dress this up really well, or just throw a blazer over it if I need to. So yeah, I'm really excited about this, and I have a few other projects on my needles I'd love to share with you all. So I will go get those. All right. So the first thing that I've cast on to make is my Ranunculus sweater. I haven't decided if I'm going to do a short sleeve or a long sleeve version because I only bought 150 grams of lace weight yarn, and so I want to just do the body and see what that gives me. But here it is. I just started this a day or so ago, and can you tell I have a favorite color? If you've been watching the podcast, like, that's old news. You've seen all my yarn in this color. But yes, so I'm doing the neck, and just like this one, it has a very open neck, so hope it's not a problem. So Christy Glass had a video on this sweater, and I was really happy to see her. Well, at the time it didn't mean as much to me, but after I started the project, I said to myself, I'm really glad I watched her video on this because I feel way more reassured that this neckline is what it should be, because it almost feels like it's such a thin gauge of yarn on such a big needle that I would have questioned if I did it right, just how it looks. But it is really neat. So I expect that if I shift my focus on this, it will be done very soon. It's on a size 10 needle that I'm knitting it. And this yarn is, I actually have a skein that I haven't opened yet in here. Let me pull it out for you. So like I said, I bought 3 skeins of this yarn, and they're a little twisted together. Here we go. So this is Quince & Company's Piper. It is half Super Kid Mohair and half Super Fine Merino. It is 305 yards per 50 grams, so I have about 915 yards of this for my sweater. Definitely likely to make a long sleeve, just so that it doesn't feel so casual if I wear it without a jacket. So yes, this yarn, I would guess I didn't pay more than, I don't know what I paid for it, but Quince & Company yarn is very affordable compared to other luxury yarns. And because it has mohair in the single ply lace weight, when you knit with it, it feels like, I'm not so sure. This feels very, very open. But then as I've continued to work the sweater, just me handling the yarn is like causing the mohair to sort of come out and alive, and it's becoming much more, a lot more opaque than the first start of it. So I feel like once the yarn really blooms, it's not going to feel so see-through. So I'm really excited about this. I think it'll look good with like a nice nude tank top, or even like a black tank top beneath it. So that is great. I bought recently 2 Andrea Mowry designs, and I want to make them both, and I feel really stuck on which yarn to choose for them. I bought, I'll just insert a photo here because I forget the name of it. And I bought the LYS sweater, which is a very small, kind of negative ease or no ease cardigan construction with lace along the front. And I do plan to modify that sweater, because I noticed both in her version and other versions, it seems like the neck comes up really high, and maybe that's a thing in like sweaters of that design, but I feel like I don't want that. I would like it to come a little bit lower. So I'm planning to maybe introduce some short rows to both bring up the back and continue the patterning, but maybe like halt the pattern and then just do short rows around to then just bind off and make it a little bit lower in the neck. So with that sweater, I have almost a perfect yarn. I'm going to pull it out for you. This is also Quince & Company Finch. It is a 100% American wool, 221 yards per 50 grams. So it's about 442 yards per 100 gram skein. And this colorway is Twig. So it's, I don't know if this is true to color, but it's kind of like a mauvey brown kind of gray. It's like a mushroom sort of mauvey brown. And I think that this would make a really good LYS because it's fingering weight, and it kind of is it's like a nondescript color that I feel like I could wear it with a lot of my gray wool skirts that have a little bit of brown or don't have brown or have a little bit of blue, because it's kind of this sort of just soft color. I feel like almost matches everything and nothing at all at the same time. But I also have yarn for another sweater, and I realized that I can't do math. So a while ago I bought yarn online, and I thought I was buying, for whatever reason, 50 gram skeins of mohair, and they're 25 gram skeins. So I have half as much mohair as I need for the other Andrea Mowry pattern I wanted to knit. And I feel like I'm so short that I can't just do it anyway. A lot of the times when I feel like I have no yarn, I just make it and play yarn chicken, and I always win. And I feel like I'm just so short on yardage here that would be insane. And it's this big cable pattern, and I'm not about to waste my time knitting half of a cable sweater. Of course, I can always buy more mohair once I do run out, if I run out, which I'm thinking about doing, but then I'm also thinking about just buying the mohair. And because I'm between jobs and I am taking a salary cut, to be honest, I'm like, don't buy more yarn, Taylor. You just bought so much yarn on vacation, so quit. So I feel a little bit stuck. Everyone's having a mohair moment right now, as am I. And of all the mohair I've ever shopped for, this is the softest ever. And you know, I am in a situation where I did buy 6 skeins of mohair. However, I bought 3 in 2 different colors, and I just need those 3 colors in gray to be this color. So do I buy 3 more in gray too, so I have a full sweater quantity? Do I buy 6 more in a different color so that I have a full sweater quantity in a color I like more? These are the questions I'm asking myself right now while I hesitate buying this yarn, because I don't feel like this colorway is going anywhere. At the same time, I should buy it now so that maybe I get a similar-ish yarn dye lot. I mean, I might need to just spend a little bit of time on my computer and shop for some. So this is a thing. I'm definitely going to make Andrea's pattern in this, her newer cable pattern in this. It's just too perfect of a match to not do. I think that this is going to be a great kind of professional cardigan, and again, my ranunculus. So that's like more than enough stuff to start and work on for the next few months. My new job has lunch breaks, apparently, at least I hope it does, but I am totally planning to bring my knitting to work and knit on my lunch break while I shove food in my mouth. Because that will give me at least a half hour of knitting all day, every day, in addition to what I do outside of work. I don't know why I'm rambling about this, but I just haven't worked like 40 hours a week. I've worked sometimes 50, 60 hours a week for a year now, and I haven't been knitting the volume that I used to and that I like to, and I just can't wait to have that time available in my life again to devote to the things that I really, really enjoy and that bring me joy, and also connecting with you all. Like, I don't know how many podcasts I've uploaded in this past year, but I can say it's significantly less than prior, and I do really enjoy building this community with you and getting to know people out there on the internet that do this stuff too. Like, I need knitters in my world and in my life, and people to connect with online and build friendships around knitting. It's something that just gives me so much more that I never had before, and I just can't say how grateful I am to all of you out there who watch this podcast and engage with me online, whether it's here in the comments or on Instagram or Ravelry. I just love it so much that you're here, and I want to thank you for that. Another project I'm working on that I spent a lot of time on while on vacation recently is, I need to find it, is my Rhinebeck sweater. So I've probably told you this is my Rhinebeck sweater already, but it's officially my Rhinebeck sweater. This is the Nightingale sweater by Nora Gong, and I don't know if this is the design or just my mistake, but this is knit in my hand spun, and when I was doing the back neck, my yarn started getting really thin, so I held it double because it's supposed to be like a worsted weight gauge and or worsted weight yarn, and it was like, at this point it was like fingering weight, so the back kind of just goes so far up. Here, I'll show you the back. That's what I meant to show you. It just goes so far up that when it's on me, and maybe I'll put it on and show you, it goes up the back and then down. So it kind of like covers the back of my neck, which makes it look like this very medieval kind of like gowny dressy thing that I don't know what I'm thinking. I used to watch this movie called Return to Oz like obsessively as a kid, and it has like really dramatic gowns and stuff, and this kind of reminds me of that. But when it doesn't have shoulder, or when it doesn't have sleeves at the shoulders, the yarn gets all crunchy and weird, so I need it to kind of stretch it out so that it sits on the neck and not like out from the neck. Anyway, this sweater I have modified to make it cropped. So I basically omitted all of the ribbing prior to the chart and just did about 2 rows to set the pattern. And right now I'm knitting the sleeves 2 together. So I have in this project bag those sleeves. And I've never done a seamed sweater before, and I can tell you that it is so easy. I was dreading it, and I did it in like so quick, and it felt so cool to take what felt like just pieces and make nearly a finished garment. So I still have these sweaters to do. Again, you can see the striping in my hand spun because I didn't blend the natural fiber enough to keep that from happening. It is happening sort of less in my newer skeins than before, because I did buy a longer, so I was prepping this fiber with hand combs, and I was just using the combs and drafting the fiber and spinning it not from the cones, but one comb at a time, basically. And so I bought, I forget what it's called, but it's a piece identical to the combs, but it's like 3 times longer. So you can move the yarn from the combs onto this thing I'm forgetting, and it helps you blend the fiber more. So I did that. I also, because I don't want neps or noils or whichever they are, kind of like one strand of fiber getting wrapped up in itself, causing a little bump. I didn't want that to happen, so I only combed the fiber off the comb that I attached to my table, and then from the comb in my hand onto the blending tool. So still more, I mean, preparing fiber to spin is so much work. It's as much work as knitting the finished garment. It's as much work as spinning all of the yarn. So this project is not just a knitted sweater. It's a sweater that I spun, and it's a sweater that I processed from a raw fleece. So I don't care that it's imperfect, because I did it. And that in itself is the accomplishment I'm sort of looking for. And I feel like the camera kind of blows up the color thing a lot. It's not as dramatic in person. I think it'll be interesting to see when it's finally on my body, kind of what it looks like. But yeah, I'm really excited about this. Like I mentioned a moment ago, my knitting isn't super consistent in gauge because I just really wanted to spin the fiber to get it spun so that I could knit it into the sweater. I was not at all a perfectionist in this process. It is also a chain plied yarn, which means that had I spun 3 separate bobbins and plied the 3 strands together, I probably would have had overall a more consistent yarn than plying 1 bobbin at a time onto itself, where there might be, that variation. It would have kind of stretched out over longer periods. I think that if I just did one thing differently in this entire project, it would have been doing a traditional 3-ply instead of a cable ply. But I was impatient. I wanted the yarn to spin, and that was the fastest way I could have started knitting. So this is not my last fleece to sweater project, so I'm not stressing it. But yeah, and back to my first point, my yarn gauge is a little inconsistent. So down here, it's like true worsted weight, and it pretty much stays as such, and then gradually just becomes thinner to the point where it's just dramatically lighter from top to bottom. But I really like that because it has this puff sleeve detail, which means that there's a lot of fabric like from here to here. And I think that if overall all the fabric is a little bit lighter, it won't feel so bulky. I kind of have broad shoulders compared to my bust, so I feel good about the yarn kind of having that sort of character to it. So hopefully soon I'll have this finished and ready to show you. Can't wait to wear that to Rhinebeck this year. One of the things about my job, my new job that I will start soon, that I'm not in love with, is that I just get 1 week of paid time off a year in my first year. It's said to increase, but that's pretty much it. I'm used to 2 weeks plus sick time, and I never had a chance to use my sick time because I had so much to do constantly. Even when I did use my sick time, I was still like putting out fires from bed, and it was just honestly, that I'd rather not be paid and stay homesick than have to answer my phone and call landlords and figure out scheduling washing machine repairs or plumbing repairs or HVAC unit repairs. all that in one day. Like, I would rather not be paid. So yeah, I'm trying to just embrace the idea of making less money because it stresses me out a little bit. I am a 30-something woman who, after graduating from community college and then a university, pretty much like just jumped right into working the beginning of a recession and living on my own and supporting myself and, you know, moving across states alone, just still like living, like being really self-sufficient, that I never would have imagined I would consciously choose to make less money. But I think it's still like decent. It's not as if it's fine. Everything's fine. I'm just, I feel like in this past year, I've been able to afford yarn that I never would have bought. Like, I never would have bought e-cigar mohair yarn to add to another strain of yarn in the same project. I mean, automatically a sweater is over $100 with that mohair held together. And I never would have thought I could afford that before my previous job. And I went out and I just bought all the yarn I wanted because I could, and then I found I didn't have the time to knit it, and I knew that was a slippery slope. So I thought, before things really get nutso and I'm totally insane, I will just move on and do something else and knit up all my yarn. So really excited about that. I hope it pans out. I think that it will. Trying to start all the projects this week so that I have different projects that I can do in different moods, like a simple straight stockinette for when I'm feeling, you know, overtired, or a more intricate one if I feel like I have that capacity. So that is what I'm working on. I would love to show you some of the other things that I bought on vacation, if that's okay. I don't want to brag too much, but like I said, I would just buy whatever I wanted this past year without thinking too much about it. And now I'm trying to sort of budget myself. And sometimes it's good to just touch and feel what you already have to know that you don't really need more. Even though I am totally going to go buy that mohair as soon as I'm done recording this. So one of the first things that I bought on vacation, well, that's not true. It's actually one of the last things I bought because I realized, okay, Taylor, you are getting a little extreme with shopping. One of the last things I bought on vacation was this project bag. And I love it because it has 2 handles and it's so much easier to hold these handles like this with your project in that little bucket there. So this bag is made by Magner in Athens, Georgia. I hope I said that right. It has this little leather cord here. It is very similar to the fringe bag, but much bigger. Actually have one nearby I can kind of compare, show you. So you can see how much bigger this bag is from this bag. It's, I'm a bougie little brat, but here's the fringe bag kind of tote bag. You can see that they're very similar in size. So this to me is like the best of both worlds. I have a nice big bag. I can store multiple projects, but it is still a bag I can throw like on my arm and knit from if I'm like going on a hike or something. I feel like this is just too long. I like to knit and hike because I get bored easily and I get tired of walking if I'm just like enjoying nature. I want to be productive because I'm brainwashed to equate productivity with value or something. But yeah, I just find that this one's a little bit easier and still can store everything I want to. So, one of the really cool things about this bag, I'll try to, without dumping everything out, give you a little inside peek. So it has the main big pocket with the grommets, which I never use because I don't know who literally wants to attach the project they're working on to the bag that they store it in. Like, you would have to break your yarn to take it out, and that's another end to splice or weave in. But the cool thing is, again, very much like the fringe bag, it has 3 little slots for pens and such. These are quite bigger, so I find that a lot of the things I tuck in here like sink to the bottom, but they're big enough that I can actually pull them out. Like I can fit both my fingers in there to grab my chapstick. And I'm just gonna plug my chapstick really quick. If you live in Maryland, you will find these at the Mom's grocery stores. You could probably find them in Portland, Maine. I think it's Portland, Maine. I just assumed, but maybe it's Portland, Oregon. Anyway, Portland Bee Balm. This stuff is the best chapstick in the world. And I would get the unscented because it tastes like honey. It tastes like sweet, delicious honey. Oh, the coolest thing is that in this little pocket here, not only do you have that regular pocket, you have a little zipper pocket. And so you can store like your notions or waste yarn or little circular end toppers that I use when I need to, like, I don't know, switch my needles out or what have you, stitch markers, progress keepers, stuff like that. So this bag is probably my favorite. I love it. I would recommend it. It's, I don't know if it's waxed canvas, but it feels like it must be. I think it is. I think it's just softened up a lot. It doesn't feel as soft and pliable as my fringe bag. I think that the fabric this is made out of has a tighter weave. So it doesn't get so loosey-goosey, but also I haven't been using it quite as long. But I just really, really like that. I've already shown you the 2 sweater quantities of yarn that I bought on vacation, the Piper from Quince & Co. and the Finch from Quince & Co. So those were 2 sweater quantities I purchased on my vacation, and I've already found projects for, which is great. Last year I bought Quince & Company's Chickadee in this gray colorway, and I cast on a project for this as well because I wanted to start knitting and potentially finish knitting the projects from yarn I bought the previous year when I was there, so that I know that I'm getting through my stash, even if I'm really quite not getting through my stash. And I did cast on Diana Walla's Aspen Socks pattern that is originally published in the Farm to Needle book that was put out by Tolt Yarn and Wool. Tolt Yarn and Wool, coincidentally, is where I bought my e-cigar yarn online, which I might place another order from them today. I'm not sure. Again, I'm gonna let that die now. You're done hearing about mohair. And I cast on this pattern, and because I didn't want to pack the book in my bag for vacation, I just took photos of the instructions, and I completely forgot to take a photo of the charts. So I thought that I finished the cuffs, and I was like, oh no, I don't have the chart, and I put it out on Instagram, and almost immediately Diana Walla was like, I got you, girl, and sent me directly the pattern on Ravelry, which was so, so sweet of her, and I'm so grateful. And then it turns out that my gauge was like way off, and I don't think I could have gotten my heel through the kind of leg warmer version of the pattern that I'm making, so I had to restart it, and I'm ready to start the charts. I've just kind of put that project aside, knowing I want to cast on all these sort of more professional looking sweaters. I am totally going to finish this though before it gets chilly, so that I can wear my new like not Peary, is it? Kind of like Gainsy style stockings with my wool skirts. I think that's going to be super cute and warm to wear in the winter. So it'll happen soon. But the one last sweater quantity of yarn that I bought while I was on vacation, I still have tucked away. I want to give you a little look-see. So this is a pattern I anticipate designing, or I should say redesigning. While we were in a used bookstore in Portland, oops, I just dropped like 12 buttons on the ground. Luckily, my kitten is at Barks right now to be spayed. I put all the cats I collect from the alley through the Community Cats program that does all that for free. So she's not here to play with my buttons and get them lost or digested. So I'm not worried, I'll get that later. But I found this sweater book at a used bookshop in Portland, and at first, you know, I would totally pass on this era of sweaters, but I flipped through it out of curiosity, and I found a chart pattern I actually stole from the internet. I was looking for cat charted knitting patterns or embroidery patterns to convert to knitting, and there was this one that I saw, and I was like, I know that pattern. In fact, I swatched that pattern when I was looking to knit my previous hand-spun sweater. And I thought, this is so cool. I can finally own the original pattern. And then I flipped to the page and I found an even better cat pattern. I've already destroyed this book's binding. But this cat pattern is amazing. I like this one a lot. First of all, I love that striped ribbing. That is so cute. And I just have a couple problems though with the cats. These cats, their bodies compared to their heads are so long that this is a tomcat. I know my cats, and this is a tomcat. And if you know what tomcats are truly like, you don't want to embrace them on a sweater. They are, I'm not going to get into it because it could be triggering, but feral male unneutered cats are the worst. And I'm going to modify this chart, which I don't want to show you, even though I just did on the previous one. Boom, there it is. I'm going to modify this chart to make the body just a little bit shorter and the face a little bit more full, so it's a little bit cuter. And then I'm going to make this actually I haven't decided if it's going to be a pullover or a cardigan. I'll probably just do a pullover for the sake of ease, and then just not overthink it too much on the cardigan front so that I can make it a cardigan if I want to, but you know, make the design pullover. And I'm gonna do cropped, kind of fitted, with 3 rows of cats. So I'm thinking about kind of shifting the chart to include maybe, I don't know, I'm not a professional like knitwear designer yet. So, but what I would like to do is kind of shrink the space between the rows by potentially just shifting it for, like, instead of having 2 charts that you just do one and then the next, I think that I'm going to have just one chart where the 2 rows are combined, so that you're really just repeating the chart once and then half the chart again, because I want to sneak the tails kind of like up between the cat rows so that there's just shorter, it's just a shorter piece. Because I'd like to do 3 rows of cats and then stockinette, and then that might not actually be much stockinette because it's a crop sweater, and then have a cat on each shoulder facing the center. So that way it just like brings the color work up, but it makes it solid so that you can continue the sleeves in just a solid color. Maybe I'll be like super kitschy and put a cat kind of walking in the opposite direction, like away on the sleeve. I don't know, we'll see. But this is something I really want to just do for myself, and I will very likely write that pattern up so I can share it with the world. I'll definitely need to get connected with someone who can help tech edit that and perhaps even do the size thing. I don't know, it's so like, yeah. I wish I could just do everything myself, and I need to learn to find people in my world who will help support me do my dreams, and also, you know, help me do things not completely on my own all the time. So I bought the yarn for this. It is Patagonia Organic Merino. I actually found this in a couple yarn stores, but I bought it at Halcyon Yarns in Bath, Maine, which is where I got my project bag. And I bought this in the colorway Mustard. And I bought way too much. I bought enough yarn to make the full oversized kind of drop sleeve sweater, even though I'm making a cropped design. I might have only bought one too many skeins, which I'm fine with. It means that I can put it another neutral-ish color into a different color work design. And the orange and the black. So I'm gonna sub out. You might have seen in the pattern there has like the opposite collar. Or the color is actually pink for the collar, which I thought was weird because I don't know, I just don't like pink that much. So I'm just gonna do the collar in the opposite cat color. So if it's a cat on mustard, it's gonna have orange eyes and an orange collar. If it's an orange cat on the mustard, it's gonna have black eyes and a black collar, which I think will be really cute. So that is something I want to do. All right, that got a bit rambly, so I'm just gonna cut myself off here and say thank you all so much for watching. I really enjoy sharing my ideas with you and my plans and the things that I'm making. I feel like this YouTube channel has helped me connect with so many people out there that I genuinely care to know. So if you're watching and you haven't made time to comment before, please let me know that you're there and that you're listening, and I'd love to connect with you on social media in some way, whether that's Ravelry or Instagram. You can find me at either of those platforms as Taylor E. Owen, and like, subscribe, do all those things so we can stay together here on this channel, and I hope that you're well. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.